Hi, everybody. This is RumblePac Podcast, and we're on our new segment called Boss Battles. It's when me or not necessarily me, but one of us will debate with the other. It's a one-on-one debate, and it's going to be in this scenario me and my illustrious co-host Patrick Dennehy, the voice who sunk 1,000 ships.
You have to think about that one.
Yeah,
it's been a while, hasn't it?
Too long.
Yeah. How have you been?
I miss you.
So what are we doing?
Well, we're going to talk about something that's very taboo between me and you. Certain company, they like.
Sure, this is a good idea to do in my house.
You are holding a knife right now, so I'm a little worried. But I feel like we'll be fine. We're both civilized men.
Yeah, I could still respect you even though you're wrong.
Stole my line.
And so
I was
it
gonna
begins.
say it. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about a little white system, many white systems named Nintendo, Wii U. Going back, actually, probably all the way up to the N64 I'll be talking about, because a very specific point to make about Nintendo. So the way this will work in this scenario, I don't know if every boss battle will work this way, but I'm going to present my arguments as to how I feel about Nintendo and what I think they should do. I'm no expert, but I have opinions. And he will, being the present fan that I know of Nintendo, will defend it.
Yeah, but that's fair. So before we get started,
Sure.
how about we talk a little bit about our own personal backgrounds with Nintendo?
Sure.
Which I think will help people understand our own personal viewpoints.
Sure.
So if you don't mind, I'll go first.
Go ahead, please.
I grew up with Nintendo. It was one of my, the Game Boy, the NES, Super NES, one of my first systems. The games that came out on it, that's what I grew up with. And I've always attached to, even today Nintendo has a very unique way of making their games, where it's not just a game, it's a story and it's a world. And they're really good at world building, and it just really pulls you in, especially back in the day when I was a little kid and you had like these massive adventures of Zelda. You're like, oh man, this is great. Yeah. So I grew up with that, and I do understand that a lot of what I have, I can identify nostalgia, and I understand when I am being nostalgic, but at the same time I could understand the new ideas and the new concepts that are coming out. So I believe, and I know this is completely subjective, that I could separate nostalgia from what is truly there, but I do understand that you can't really get rid of nostalgia.
No, it's really hard, but I'm going to go out on a record in saying that master classes in gameplay are the original Mario games. They've essentially set the bar so high for all these games up before and after them. Mm-hmm. And maybe still there you go back and play them and you'd notice things. You're like, well, this could play better, this could play better. But in your heart, regardless of nostalgia, you put yourself in that time and place, and they're impressive for their time and still impressive. They're still better than a lot of platformers that come out as far as creative level design.
Well, that's the history of every game. Every game is based off of a concept. It's very rare that you have games that are new.
Exactly.
Right? And that goes back even to like the very early beginnings of video game development. But anyway.
I know very few games that can go 30 years and still be fun to play. And Nintendo, so just so you guys know, I'm not a hater. They make games that are fantastic, right? So that's your lineage, Nintendo. I did the same thing you did. Grew up on Nintendo. I had an NES, SNES, N64, GameCube. I have all of them, to be honest. The only one I don't have is a Game Boy Micro.
Neither do I.
Why would I have that? You sold yours, which means at one point you bought it.
Oh no, I had one.
It was a really interesting looking console, but what's the point of it?
I liked it because cool. It could fit in my pocket.
Right, so
and I could sneak it into class.
And to show how much I love Nintendo, so for example, when SNES came out, I'm only 21, which means it came out a lot, not a lot before, but before I was even born.
Right.
So I played that because my brothers had it. I played that well into PS1 generation. I played that through the PS1 generation. I was playing Aladdin, Super Mario. Aladdin. Right, I love that game. I think we talked about it earlier.
Yeah, we mentioned brought it up. We must have.
Games of all time, I think, was one of my honorable mentions. Yeah. And so, clearly I have an affinity towards Nintendo, and that's partially why I feel so strongly about what I'm saying.
I honestly think that most people that are into gaming around our age have at least the roots or their basis in Nintendo.
Unless Sega kids.
Yeah, but honestly, we don't talk about those.
They don't exist.
They're just so no,
they're wrong. They were born wrong.
Yeah, it's God's built a person.
So yeah, I am a true, as much as I don't think Zelda, I appreciate Zelda, but I never really got into Zelda. I was more of a Mario guy.
Fair, yeah.
But I appreciate them. So nothing that I'm saying, I want everyone to know before we go into this that I'm not a hater. I just may sound like one. So I think that's good. Do you have anything else to add before we get going on this?
No, I think you covered it up pretty thoroughly. So you have the floor.
I like to start that by saying Nintendo has been on pretty well a downward spiral ever since the N64.
Okay.
And it's because of their, in my opinion, their mindset of being stuck in their own ways. They don't want to learn from other companies, and I think it started with the N64. They created this console with cartridges back when there was a time of... Unprofessional, what am I trailer? A time of discs were becoming a thing to play games on. They were cheaper to manufacture, and they had load times, which is the downfall of discs back then. They were really long, but they were cheaper. You could fit more data onto them.
Of course, yeah.
So you could have larger worlds and stuff. Generally, there were more pluses than minuses on discs. However, Nintendo was like, well, we own all the cartridge companies, and we want to make money, so no. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So every game that came out on Nintendo was more expensive than on PS1 and everything like that. So I think that that point was a sign of how they are as a person. Japanese companies, they tend to be that way too. They're just... they have a mindset and a way of doing things. They don't necessarily like going away from that, which is fine. It's their way,
or they bleed themselves dry.
Exactly, right? And so I think that Nintendo, when that happened with the N64, that was already like they were already losing. They started a losing trend. And then GameCube comes out. Great games come for GameCube. A lot of good third-party games. They're on discs finally. But again, they create this little square box with these stupid discs that no one can use for anything else. There's no video playback. And everyone can tell me, and it's true, that PS2 won that generation pretty much only on the fact that it could play DVDs.
Yep.
It was the cheapest DVD player on the market.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know what? As much as that is the case, it's still... They also had great games. They didn't just offer that one thing. And it also was like... You were adding so many things to one bundle you get. Eventually it became an online device, and you could play online games and stuff like that. So it was just kind of a building towards it. And Nintendo's mindset, again, was like, well, I don't want to do... We want to separate ourselves from you guys. We don't want to be like you, so let's create these small discs. Let's have these... Also, the best controller of any controller is the GameCube controller. Most comfortable to hold, all that kind of stuff. It looked weird as hell, but definitely the most comfortable controller. You know, we want to use these weird C-stick instead of dual analogs. Like, we just want to be different, you know? I feel like that's Nintendo's major problem. They refuse to adapt to other people because they need to set themselves apart with gimmicky things. I don't want to say gimmicky things.
I've agreed with pretty much everything you said to a certain extent up to this point, but they have to be different. That's the caveat, because if you go to a restaurant and they're only selling burgers, you know, then what's the point of even having a menu? You're just going to get the one thing, and it might be good, it might be great, it might be fantastic, but you're not going to have those different choices. But if you go somewhere and then you could order all these different things and you could build it the way that you want, and then you have like a different experience, then that'll keep you coming back because you know that there's something more. If we live in a world where the video game industry is a monopoly, and secretly I think that's what most developers want, everything to be the same so they could put their same game out on the same system, it gets boring. And then it just comes down to, well, what are your friends playing? And then that just comes down to, well, which one was cheaper at the time, right? And I'm going to try to not bring this in too much throughout this episode, but if you look at the PS4 and the Xbox One, you know, what's the difference? There's some exclusives, but honestly... And I don't want to offend anyone,
totally,
but like, who cares?
So here's my proposed rebuttal to that, though. You're right, but they don't need to differentiate themselves with gimmicky hardware. As long as the hardware performs in a way that allows other people to make games for them, what will differentiate Nintendo from everyone else, and what it always has been, is their games.
Yeah, no,
their
absolutely.
Essential quality. Like, they do not release broken games. They do not release bad games.
Oh God,
Nintendo does not release bad games.
They can't.
They have like maybe 2 in like the last 5 years.
The cultural backlash if like a game ships out from Nintendo that's broken, nobody would stand for that.
Yeah.
There are developers that can put out broken games. I'm not going to name any, but Bethesda. But and people just kind of give them a pass. And I'm not saying people don't give Nintendo a free pass for a lot of the stupid stuff that they do.
But it's never their games.
That's obviously not true. But if they do not put out a broken game.
Exactly, and that's one
of the few developers
that can say
still
that.
around that still can say that or still even
tries.
Right? I agree that what makes Nintendo different is it is their games.
To me, at least.
Absolutely, because you can't play a game similar to Mario on the PS4 or the Xbox One. You could play I'm not saying there aren't platformers, but there's that Nintendo charm, that
absolutely.
polish, that just the way that the mechanics work and the way the world fits together. Like, you can't find that from other developers or on other platforms. Now, what you're saying is that you disagree, and if this isn't right, then you could correct me, obviously. But you disagree with the way that they approach their hardware.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
because what they do is they create a roadblock. They immediately create a roadblock from everyone else and to them. They're like, okay, you want to make hardware for us, and you know that everyone's going to buy us. You can at least guarantee that 10 million people will buy a Nintendo console. You want to know why? Because Nintendo games.
Right.
Right? But the next 20 million of people that are buying PlayStation 4, not that they don't care, but they would rather spend their money on console to play all of the games.
Before we move on with this, I think we do have to at least acknowledge that Nintendo, and again, they're not directly competing with Sony or Microsoft in terms of the games that they're putting out. It's not the same market. Yes, they are both in the video game development industry, but Nintendo's focus isn't the same focus as Microsoft or PlayStation 4.
I don't disagree that that's what they are. I think that that's their problem. That is where all their problems begin, because now they're trying to separate themselves and
see, I don't even know about that because it's
into
basic
a niche
business.
But it isn't, because they're losing because of that. If you think,
well, what is? And again, this is going to be interesting. What is losing to you? Does losing mean they're underperforming over Sony and Microsoft? Absolutely, but
for themselves.
But that's kind of saying
because
that
if you take away all of their gains from Amiibo, separate what they make.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, no.
Separate their
Fair.
games
Yeah.
and their Amiibos, and just
Right.
look at the hardware sales. They are below. They're below Dreamcast.
this is.
How do you
but
sell
are
less
speaking
than
only
Dreamcast?
about the Wii U.
I don't, and is my other issue, right? So, again, back to the timeline, right? N64 comes out, GameCube comes out, downward trend. N64 sells well, GameCube sells worse. Wii comes out, huge spike, right? And this is the problem. Everyone's using that. They have this giant trust fund of money from the Wii spike because they got so much money from it.
Well, it wasn't just from the Wii. Nintendo's always been very financially stable, even during the GameCube era.
But they was falling down. They were losing money,
absolutely.
right? And the Wii was what brought them up to if they kept on the downward trend, if the Wii didn't sell like it would be having a very different conversation. They would have no choice.
Yes.
But to either not make consoles anymore or just sell their games to other.
For the I don't think Nintendo will ever get out of the console market. I think they will close shop before because then the second that they stop making their own console, then that's when they're giving away their creative liberty.
Are they though? Because
that's when they have to start playing by Microsoft's and Sony's or whatever system that they decide to go out. They have to play by their rules.
But
they want complete control.
But
they want to be able to make the gimmicky hardware. They want you to be able to have this unique experience. The Wii Remote, it sold fantastically. Of course, there's a different market back at the time, but you can't deny that even Microsoft and Sony looked at them and say, "Oh wow, we should get on this," and that's why we have the PlayStation Move. That's why we have the Kinect. Both of those are horrible.
It could have been great.
It could have been fantastic, absolutely. But they saw it as a way. Okay, let's just jump on the bandwagon. But Nintendo wanted you to have this motion control so that they could give you experiences that you cannot get on the other two systems.
They did, and I don't disagree with that.
And just to finish up the thought,
go ahead. Yeah.
If they were to not do that, and if let's just say Nintendo stops selling hardware, and they move all their software development onto a competing company, they can't have those unique experiences. They could still use their brands, use their IPs, use the games that everyone grew up with and everyone loves, but they can't expand it past the simple controller. They can't expand it past what everyone's already kind of done.
But I think that's their problem, right? So
now the question is there a market for that?
For what they're doing?
For their gimmicky, interesting designs.
There isn't anymore. So this is awesome. So Wii comes, spikes.
And I'm not disagreeing with you.
No, I know, yeah. Wii spikes, right? And that spikes because...
And important to note, that was before mobile gaming.
Exactly. So Wii spikes because they capture a market. They capture the mobile gaming market.
If you look at the Wii eShop, it's filled with shovelware. Horrible games that you probably wouldn't even want on your phone. Absolutely. Because it's stupidly easy to develop for. They allowed everyone on it, and people just kept going because it was in every house.
It was like the NES all over again.
Exactly.
And so that's the problem, though, is that the Wii comes out, and they essentially take the mobile market by storm. Everyone that plays mobile games are the same people that bought Wii's.
Well, what eventually grows into the mobile market.
Your grandmother, your mother, not saying that they don't play games, I'm saying let's say they don't. You know, these people that don't necessarily play video games are like, oh, I want a bowl.
They could go to the Walmart. They pick up this cheap $100 little thing. It comes with everything you need.
It comes with Wii Sports, which means that's the only game they buy.
Oh my God, Wii Sports, one of the best-selling games of all time, just because it was bundled with the Wii.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? So like that game, that console, it was a flash in the pan. That will never happen again. Not even unless you release a VR headset for the same price that you sell the Wiimote thing. It'll never happen again like that, right? And it's because
Go on.
It's because now that same market, they already have their gimmicking games that they want to play out quickly with their friends or family on their phones.
Right.
That is now taken over.
Absolutely.
And everyone has a cell phone. There's not a single person on this planet that is under the age of 12. Well, there probably are. But you know what I mean? Like, in developed nations,
developed world,
worlds, like the spoiled people that we are, have cell phones.
If you're in the boroughs of Africa and you're listening to this podcast, turn the volume down so they don't find out about you. Was that too much?
No, I loved it. It just made me laugh. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that market's gone. And those people still own their Wiis. That's why Just Dance is still one of the best. Just Dance sold best on Wii.
Yeah, Ubisoft still puts out games on the Wii.
Just Dance 5, the latest one, sold best on Wii. Not Wii U, not PS4, not Wii. Because everyone that bought it then still buys Just Dance every year because their kids want to waggle their hands around and play that game. And so they can't do that. Like, they can't rely on that market anymore.
Well, that's exactly what they did. Fast forward a couple years and they bring out the Wii U. And now, it's very important. Nintendo, it's always been the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the Nintendo GameCube, Nintendo 64, and then the Wii. Not the Nintendo Wii, it was just the Wii. This was something completely different. So that was the first step of Nintendo trying to separate the company from the system. Because Nintendo always had this idea of being more than just a game system, right? They did toys, they did playing cards, now they're getting into, with the new account system, physical shops, theaters, movies. They're going crazy, which I'm all for.
Yeah, absolutely. Disney it up.
And then, so after the success of the Wii, they bring in the Wii U. It's very important that they kept the name Wii. This is the next Wii. Now, I don't know how this happened. I don't know what happened in their marketing division, in their public relations, whatever. But it was a complete and utter failure.
Because no one knew what it was.
Nobody knew what it was.
They thought it was an attachment to your Wii.
The idea of the gamepad, the idea of having a second controller for whatever, if it's just for maps, if it's for inventory management, if it's for like a first-person view. Personally, and I know a lot of people don't agree with this, I like that.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and it's so Nintendo. It's so like, here's something new that you haven't seen before, you haven't done before. Here you go.
It's too late, though.
Nobody touched it. Except even Nintendo.
Yeah,
Nintendo didn't even touch it. The only games that I could think of off the top of my head, I'm not saying these are the only ones. It's very important that I make that clear because internet. Wonderful 101 used the gamepad occasionally for like some parts of the game where you go into like a hallway and then it switches down there. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze use it as a second screen. Mario Maker obviously makes fantastic use of it.
Best use so far.
I don't agree. Splatoon made the best use of the second screen just for the gyro controls, and that's it. And that's not even a direct feature of the screen; it's just the built-in gyro controls.
It's so easy,
which you could have done with the Wii.
To utilize that in a minimal way. Just put your fucking map.
Minecraft.
Yeah.
Nintendo finally got Minecraft. Everyone's like, please, the Wii U is the perfect system for Minecraft, aside from PC. The perfect system because you have the inventory right there. Yeah. You don't have to press anything. You just drag stuff onto your character, into your hand. Doesn't do that.
Of course not.
It's just a second screen.
I bet you it's really hard to develop for that second screen, I feel like.
Exactly, because that takes away processing power. That takes away more development time. If you do want to utilize it, and let's say you're a developer that put out a game on the PS4, Xbox One, you have to bring it over to the Wii U, downscale it so that it works on the Wii U, and then think of a new feature for the gamepad, which is more development time for a market that's not there. So what's the point?
There isn't one.
And then you just have Nintendo being like, okay, well, Nintendo continued their own personal development schedule. They put out their game every couple months. Every 3 months, 6 months, whatever it was, and everyone was very happy whenever a new game came out. Then that dies down, and then you're back to waiting. So you have this really cool gimmick, but
no one uses it. It's not a gimmick anymore. It's just a really
now
heavy piece of.
Where did this come from? Because I want to go back to like the PR behind it. Nobody knew what the Wii U was.
So I think what comes from it is that they go, man, all these mobile devices have stolen our market for Wii. How do we capture
Let's give them a mobile device.
Let's give them a touchscreen. Kids love touchscreens. Let's give them a touchscreen. But hey, wait, we're going to make a way more inferior touchscreen device than any other touchscreen device on the market. There's no multi-touch. Mm-hmm. It's way bigger. The screen sensitivity is way lower.
I think that goes back to Nintendo's fear of pricing. They
have to eat
want everything to be very, very cheap.
Can't do it. They need to eat. I think
they can do it, and the trade-off is you have these less powerful machines.
Yeah, and then you get.
And then when
less
you have
people.
a less powerful machine that's split between two screens, and that's why Star Fox, the remake, well, not the remake, but it's a remake for the Wii U. Everyone's freaking out. Why does it look horrible? It looks like a GameCube game. It's because it's being rendered on two separate screens from two different viewpoints. But then so it's just a backlash. Nintendo can't win. It's either they price their machine for the NX. I guess we're going to be talking about the NX.
We're gonna have to have our predictions for it for sure.
So the NX, officially, we know nothing.
No,
there have been leaks; those aren't true. We know absolutely.
If they
nothing.
are, that's fucking weird. I don't know
if they are, then it's
them.
crazy. But Nintendo, if the NX wants to compete, because it's so weird that they're putting out the system at the not early, but adolescence of the PS4 and the Xbox One. They have a good opportunity.
Here's the problem
to steal
with
a
Nintendo
portion
also.
of both markets.
Yeah, they do. But here's the problem with Nintendo is they still run on a 5-year dev cycle, and consoles don't last. They last longer than that now, and so when you start coming in between consoles, you're running the risk of people not being ready to buy your console yet because they just bought their PS4. They may have just got their Xbox One. They're not willing to dish out a full price amount of money for their next console.
And that's why they don't have them at full price.
You're right, but then
they put out
it's a cyclical cycle.
Exactly.
They have to be able to eat the cost. If they want to put out a console for $400, that is just as powerful.
If they're willing to commit to the NX and give it a 10-year span, price it according to what the power is.
$400, $500.
Now, if people are going to be reciprocal to that, that's a whole nother story. But I think that's something that they have to either. And I know nothing about business.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm talking about this from the perspective of a fan, somebody that follows the industry, somebody that does my research, and so I'm just everything I'm talking about. In other words, is bullshit.
Well,
I don't know about this. But it's educated bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I come from a position of what I like to consider to be relatively researched bullshit.
Not to mention, you are the fan base.
Right.
You know what someone willing to buy a console will spend on and why they'll spend it.
If Nintendo, and you've said this in the past, if the NX is something that can compete, if not exceed the expectations of the PS4 or the Xbox One, if Nintendo can pull back third-party support from and I'm not just saying the occasional indie UB art game. I'm talking about Call of Duty, Destiny, the big games. If somehow in some magical universe, if Nintendo could convince these developers to not only build the game for their new system but also support it, because it's easier to over the PS4 or the Xbox One. Again, we're going complete in complete La La Land.
It could be just as
and
easy.
Nintendo continues to put out their quality first-party games. That's it.
They win.
They're done.
They don't beat them because they're still fanboys.
They don't beat them.
There's still people that are going to be like, no, I like Halo. I like. And that's
absolutely,
I like Uncharted, and that's important.
And that is why you buy other systems.
That's why I have an Xbox One and a PS4.
That's why I have a PS4 and a Wii U.
They're the same damn thing,
right?
Like I have two of the same consoles sitting right on my shelf, and I play.
And you picked them up. I'm gonna guess for the exclusives.
Exactly.
And that's fair.
And the controller because it's better.
Yes.
Xbox controller.
I agree. They are pretty good.
I want to be able to spend. I want to get the Elite controller. $130. Can't afford it right now.
Really? That's stupid.
It's like apparently like the best controller ever made. Just like beautiful controller. I want it so bad.
If you go to the States, you can pick it up for $60.
The Elite controller?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's $60.
The joke is the Canadian dollar is so horrible right now.
Oh yes, I got you. I thought you meant being literal. I'm like, I don't think so.
I don't. Maybe.
I'm not gonna look up to it.
But anyway,
it'll make me too sad if I look it up.
Yeah.
Nintendo.
Right.
If NX comes out, if you look me in the, I don't even care about the whole rumors of it.
We have to revisit this when the news starts to come out for NX. I think we should do that. We should have a rematch.
Okay.
Well, we don't know because Nintendo doesn't care about E3.
I think they understand.
They're more focused about their Nintendo.
You're right, but I think they know in their hearts, and they've been in the business long enough that if they're going to release hardware for everyone, not just for Nintendo, not for fans of gaming, but
for the media,
for
and
Forbes, for GQ,
right.
all those places, you need to announce something at E3. It needs to be there.
I don't know.
I think it needs to be.
But then they don't have to compete with all their other people that are interested in Nintendo for either reporters or for stock. They're keeping up with Nintendo Directs.
They are, but if they come to E3,
it's not like a Nintendo Direct ever goes under the radar.
But Nintendo wins.
This way, Nintendo has. Can you imagine the week before E3? if Nintendo, for whatever reason, decides to actually participate in this year's E3, but they also have a Nintendo Direct before announcing some of the bigger stuff, including specifications for the NX, and then E3 is the official big reveal. This way, they have hype before E3, and then they move on into E3, and they have 2 bombs.
I think they're better off sleeper selling. You show up, and you're the first conference, and you just drop, like, NX. Yeah. PlayStation and Xbox will be like, well,
anyway, we're
not reporting anymore because we won't have any conferences this year.
We're getting a little off topic.
You know, so, like, yeah, the Wii U comes out. It's literally a bomb.
Yep.
It's selling right now worse.
Is it a good system? I personally enjoy it.
It's good for what it is.
Did they make many mistakes? Absolutely.
It's good for what it is.
Yeah.
The games are great. Nintendo's games are great.
It's what games should be. There's no bullshit microtransaction.
That's all
There's no horrible server issues. It's just a good game.
Yeah. And that's great.
And isn't it so sad that in today's world having good games isn't enough?
It's not because other consoles have good games, but just more of them.
Yeah.
It doesn't have as good games.
It's so weird because Nintendo's like the IP library is unparalleled. Nobody even comes close to it.
Yeah. So Nintendo has this great.
They're afraid to use half of them, but still they're there.
They have their really great games that they put out, and that's it.
Yeah.
I can go to PS4 or Xbox and I can play.
I can tell you right now what games I will be buying for the NX. I will be buying Mario. I will be buying a Mario Kart. I will be buying Smash Bros. I will be buying a Legend of Zelda game. I may be buying a Kirby game, not an official Kirby game, but like an artsy, contemporary Kirby game. Maybe down the line I'll also be picking up a spin-off game following Captain Toad. Like, I know I'm getting these games. They haven't announced anything, but I know I'm going to get them.
Any game that has a Nintendo
an Animal Crossing, hopefully an actual Animal Crossing and not some horrible goddamn Amiibo bullshit Animal Crossing. Can we talk about Amiibo?
1 second. We will get there. We're on the consoles right now.
Cool.
So, but I can go to Xbox and I can get pretty good to great games. Not really great games. Some are really great, some aren't. You know what I mean? There's a little more mix up, but the amount of great games to bad games is more. Mm-hmm. And there's way more great games than the few really great games on Nintendo. I'm gonna go put $400 down on an Xbox One. I'm gonna play a bunch of really good to great games.
Right.
And I'm gonna forget. My Wii U is sitting in another room in my house. I have not touched it.
Yeah.
I have Donkey Kong there. I have New Super Mario Brothers.
All very good games.
I have Smash Bros. Don't touch them.
Yep.
Literally, played an hour to 2 hours on them. People come over, I'll play it, but don't touch it otherwise. And it's because the effort to play those games does not meet what's on the system for me. That's my opinion, right? Like, so obviously people love the shit out of Nintendo and they will go back and play them.
Yeah.
And I'm just not that kind of person. But if you come to me and you say, "Listen, NX comes out," and I don't mean the rumors of it whole being like a portable system and a home system. Fuck
right,
that.
Yeah.
You just tell me it's a console. It is better than a PS4 and Xbox One because by now it should be if they're developing it years after. You know what I'm saying? Like, it should be better graphically, if not just as good as a console. It comes out. It can play all the games that PS4 and Xbox One play, and more. You can put a regular controller in my hand. Just any Nintendo based.
No gimmicky,
fucking,
no motion control, no second screen.
A controller in my hand.
It's just, here's a GameCube controller.
Yeah.
It's wireless.
Sure,
now.
a GameCube controller. Just not a C-stick. Give me 2 joysticks. Jesus.
Fair.
Right? You know, like a contemporary GameCube, just actual controller. And you tell me I can play all of the Nintendo games on it, I'm already sold.
That's what Nintendo really needs to do. They need to stop selling me the original Mario Brothers every couple years for $5.
I agree with you. I do have a defense
If only
for
they
that,
had
though.
some sort of account system that keeps track of what I've bought 13,000 times.
Oh, I totally agree.
That would be great. If I could get the NX and it comes preloaded with every game that I have bought from my 3DS, from my Wii U in terms of classical Nintendo games, and I don't have to buy a single thing, and I have a backlog of iconic, beautifully crafted Nintendo games ready to go. Cool. I don't have to buy them again. I don't have to spend the $1 to upgrade it from the Wii to the Wii U version. That's all I want. That's all I need. That's what they need to do.
Literally, I'd buy it. I'd pre-order it the moment they said that. If you could guarantee me that it was that good, and then you looked at me and you said, "By the way, that Zelda game that came out on Wii U, it's like Twilight Princess. It's coming out for NX.
Beautiful
Launch title. Metroid game. Launch title.
We bought that Rareware. Here's Banjo 3.
Exactly. Metroid launch title. Star Fox.
Actual Metroid, not this Federation Force.
Let's not talk about that. Super Mario game, launch title. Are you kidding me? That's crazy. And not to mention, you also get to get the new Assassin's Creed game when it comes out. That'll come out for that. It'll play just as good as the other ones.
If not,
better.
Maybe a little bit better.
Maybe a little bit better. You actually won't crash like Unity did. Oh, did you want to play Destiny? Yeah, we got that too. Sorry. We have a real friend system now. You don't have a 10-digit friend code to punch in. Usernames.
It's so sad that we're talking about this like as a joke in 2016.
What? Like, it would, if not compete, it could beat them. It wouldn't, like, transform, like I said, there's fanboys of everything. Like, you're always going to sell good on no matter what. People will get both. But they will be a competing title. It'll give Sony...
Sony and Microsoft are doing what they're doing with third-party games.
Yeah.
Like, what's their first-party development?
Very little.
Right?
Like, I mean,
I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but, like...
It's not compared to
how
Nintendo.
do you even...
It wouldn't.
Not even close.
And that's not their fault. It's just they don't have that lineage.
Yeah.
They don't. Not anymore, not ever.
I will say that the end of the Wii U's coming.
Yeah, imminent.
Personally, I paid full price for it when it launched. I feel like I got my money's worth out of it. I got a couple good solid years. The amount of games. This is how I personally like see if I got my money's worth out of a system. If the amount of games that I bought exceeds what I paid for the system, then I got my money's worth. I picked up pretty much every high quality first party Nintendo game that came out for the Wii U, and I enjoyed every single one of them. I'm happy with what I got. I'm ready to move on. And I think that's probably the nicest thing that anyone can say about the Wii U.
Absolutely.
Right?
However, you asked me, and I didn't even pay for mine. It was bought with my brother's Petro points. I have 3 games for it. Never beaten a single one of them because I can't get myself to turn the console on.
Right?
It is not even worth the Petro points that we spent.
That's fair.
And it's not a being a hater. Like, I love Nintendo games. I played the shit out of my SNES. I played the shit out of my GameCube. That a little bit less because I was a little punk-ass kid wanting to play stupid-ass PS2 games. But I liked it. I really liked my GameCube. You know what I'm saying? The Wii came out, couldn't do it. I didn't want to sit there waggle my hand around like an idiot.
Right.
That wasn't my gameplay type. I couldn't do it. If you gave me a controller to play all those games on, would have loved it. The controls weren't what made those games great. Super Mario Galaxy would have been great with the controller, would have been great with the motion controls. Would have been great no matter what, because it's a good game. Mm-hmm. The games are not predetermined by the control type. I think Nintendo needs to realize that. No one cares.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. It's cool.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of work for some, like, in the current market to bring something new and get people to be like, all right, I'm in. Right? It's much easier to have something new and then people be like, this is cool. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It's like...
Think about Apple, right? And I hate Apple, you hate Apple, everyone hates Apple, but we still buy their shit. You want to know why? Because they put shit out incrementally.
Because you have to.
Well, yes. But they also give you stuff incrementally. They don't go, here's a totally new thing. They're like, all right, so now we have this multi-touch thing. We're going to test it on our laptops. The diehard people that buy our stuff, they'll see if they like it. Oh, you really like that multi-touch thing on your touchpad on your laptop? We're going to now put it on your iPhone screens.
Yeah, but this is different business models.
Yeah, because it's not as often.
People like Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo can't do something like that.
No, you're right.
Here's the PS4.2.
No, you can't do that.
It plays different games.
But, you know what's sick about the Xbox?
Nintendo did it with the 3DS.
They did.
Here's a 3DS.
Was really
Here's a 3DS XL. Here's a 3DS, or the DSi. Here's a 2DS, 2DS XL. The new 3DS, the new 3DS XL.
My only problem with the new 3DS...
Okay, before you get into that, I finally saw it happen in person.
What?
A mother came into EB Games. I was just there shopping, and she wanted to buy a new quote unquote new 3DS for her kid, and she doesn't know anything about it. So she went up to the guy. It's like, I would like to buy a new 3DS, and the guy actually said to her, "Which one?" It's like, and she said, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Do you want a new 3DS or do you want the new 3DS?" And she's like, I was watching, and he knew I was watching. And I was laughing my ass off. And she's like, well, what's the difference? It's like, well, you could buy a new 3DS, but there's also the new 3DS, which is called the new 3DS. And she's like, well, what's the difference? It's like, well, one plays new games. It's like, so if I want to play new games, which one do I want? You need to get the new 3DS. It's like, I'm trying to buy a new 3DS. Yes. And it was like a skit right out of Abbott and Costello. It was fantastic. I loved it, but that's the problem.
They can't do that. First of all, you can't create hardware incrementally like that, charge the same price, and then say you can only play games on this.
I picked up the new 3DS. Do you want to know how many? Do you want to know how many exclusive new 3DS games there are?
How many?
2.
Of course.
Do you want to know what they are? Xenoblade, which is fantastic, and Binding of Isaac.
Of course, you played both of those.
Yeah, it's shit on the 3DS.
Is it really?
It does not work.
Oh, that's terrible.
Well, it's because they're horrible programmers.
Are they really?
Oh yeah, Nicholas. Okay, they're bad. But anyway, Nintendo.
Edmund's really good, isn't he?
No, they're really bad at
But-
building their games.
But they're really good.
No, the games are good.
I don't understand.
They just don't run properly.
But
it's okay because everyone gives them a pass, including me.
You just hurt my head.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, Nintendo.
Right.
So like, I'm just like, I love Nintendo. I want them to be great again. I feel like I'm an American citizen. Let's make America great again.
Yeah, everyone that's
Let's
like, I
make
want Nintendo to
great
die. It's like, why?
Shuhei Yoshida.
You want a monopoly over the video game industry.
The
Why do you want
president
that?
of Sony America says they need Nintendo.
Yeah.
You need Nintendo to exist. They shape the video game market.
Absolutely.
All the young kids, they're created by Nintendo.
If we have a society of people that grows up on the bullshit, horribly buggy, broken games that the developers put out because they can, and they can make more money out of selling patches, microtransactions, and fixes later on down the road, and people grow up with that, and people accept that as standard and look forward to it, then we
Destiny?
lose. We lose as a people.
A world without Nintendo is not a world I want to live in. They need to be around. You know what I'm saying?
It's.
I don't want a kid growing up on Call of Duty. That's bullshit. I don't
I
want a
look at
kid
the-
growing up on Minecraft.
I look
First
at
of
the
all,
current state of
I have
gaming,
a
and I'm like,
serious
this is
problem with
horrible.
Minecraft.
Oh
Okay?
boy.
I like Minecraft. It's a plenty good game, but I have to see one more fucking video of a kid making a fucking shelf out of some blocks. That's Lego, bitch. Don't fuck with me. It's not that cool.
But there's a reason why it's so popular, because it's so simple and it's easy, it's accessible, and
You're
it's
right.
fun to watch.
But you know what's way better to play?
Anything else?
Super Mario. You know what's way better to play? The original Super
Well, that's the thing. Kids, when we were kids, played Super Mario. Now they're playing Minecraft.
Also, I'm really tired of this bullshit making everything really easy. The Super Tanuki suit is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
You have to though.
No, you don't.
Well, are you talking for Nintendo? Because Nintendo games have a very delicate balance of if you want to play the game and just beat it, you could do it no problem with absolutely zero challenge. But if you want to complete the game,
Do you remember playing games when you were a kid?
yeah.
Do you remember how if you
I
couldn't
remember
beat
writing down passwords
Yes.
because there was no save
But
option.
do you remember playing games and if you couldn't win, you didn't win? There was no, oh, it's okay, honey. Here's a suit that you can just walk through the level.
Well, that's just showing that Nintendo is for a different audience.
That's
it's
bullshit.
for
You should-
kids.
Okay, I played it as a
and
kid.
the worst thing that you could do in today's society to
Fuck
a
it.
kid
I don't
is
care.
saying, no, you can't do something.
Figure it out.
Because we have this society of
No.
nurtured little babies.
Sorry, I don't
and
care.
Nintendo has to be mother hen.
Nope, they don't
They
have
have
to.
to be like, everybody wins, everybody gets a
No.
prize. They're afraid of having online chats because in some ungodly universe, a man over the age of 20 or even 30, God forbid, might talk to a child. And who knows what might happen. Nintendo does not even allow that. They used to have PictoChat.
But
PictoChat, you could send messages, written messages or photos to people. And in Japan, unfortunately, there was some incident where a minor and an adult got into communications and some photos were sent that probably shouldn't have been sent. And because of that one incident, Nintendo shut the entire thing down worldwide. They need to protect the children, quote unquote. And if they don't, then they don't want to educate parents
But
and be like, this is what could possibly happen. It's out of our control. They don't even want to take the chance of it happening.
I played games as a kid.
I know, but that's
I played
not
games
what
that were hard.
I'm not disagreeing
They
with you. I'm
should
just
be
saying
hard.
this is the mindset
No,
of today.
they shouldn't do it.
You might not agree with it. I personally don't agree with
As
it
a
at all.
person who's
but
better
that's
for
what
it,
it is.
I played challenging games and I'm a better person for it.
I know.
learned
and
how to
in
play
20
games.
years, when we're old people,
And
we watch the youth of today, they're going to be completely unadjusted. They're not going to be able. And this isn't just like video games anymore. We're talking about like basic sociology right now.
I'm
People
sorry.
are not gonna be able
the
to
word
handle
Nazi is a trigger to me. I really don't want to learn World War II history. Get the fuck out of here. Are you on crack?
I hate the word triggered.
You know why I hate it? Because it's ruined an actual serious problem. There are people with PTSD and fucked
I'm
up
sorry,
shit
you're
that's
at
happened to them.
McDonald's and you ordered a burger. I'm a vegan, and
Yeah.
you just triggered me.
Like, there are-
So calm down.
There are real people with real issues that have actual triggers.
And then you have these horrible
yell, "Get
wastes
down."
of people.
You get yelled at down from a guy who has PTSD, he will probably freak the fuck out. Because he legitimately was shot at by a guy with an RPG and is fucked up and saw his best friend die. But no, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not allowed to
You're
call you
offended
fat.
because your ancestors were Jewish and they were in camp in fucking concentration camps. And now you can't hear the word Nazi. Go die.
It's part of history.
That's Darwinism.
It's not good history.
Okay,
but
I'm gonna
it's
get mad. Let's not talk
history.
about this on this podcast. But seriously, Darwinism.
To be fair, I want to make it perfectly clear that I disagree completely with the Nazi regime and everything that they moved
absolutely. Nazis are terrible.
I think that's something that we have to talk about
very
right now
clear,
because
by the way.
you have been bringing that up a little bit too much.
Nazis are bad. However, how can we ever learn from anything if we don't learn about it?
I know, if you just kind of... If it's the allegory of the cave. If you stay in the cave the whole time and just look at the shadows and are afraid of what's out there, then you'll always be afraid and you'll never grow. And there are people that just reside to that, and it's really unfortunate because then they're wasting away into nothingness for no apparent reason other than their feeble mind is too primitive to grow past what it is.
I can't deal with it. It frustrates me so
Anyway,
much.
Nintendo.
Yeah, but it's actually a good point though, because like Nintendo's just like they're afraid to do all these things. You know what I mean?
Chris, edit everything.
And they'll
out.
never keep it in there. This is good. We'll offend lots of people. I'm kidding. Don't
Hate
be
mail's
offended.
great.
We really love all of you. We just don't want anyone to be afraid of their own shadow, which is what's going to happen. In Nintendo, it's afraid to change. Because they're afraid.
It's the Marvel syndrome. Nintendo wouldn't be here today if they weren't so conservative.
But they also, the weird thing about it is their idea of never changing is to make shit so weird and totally different. It's such a weird,
But that's their
backwards
foundation.
idea.
They've always been weird and different, but they're conservatively weird and different.
Yeah, within
because
their
they
own
are a
comfort zone.
Japanese company.
Yeah.
And Japanese companies, man, it's nothing like what we have in the Western world. They're all
Sony's
about
adjusted.
status. They're all about appearance. They're all about being consistent.
But Sony's adjusted.
I know because
Sony's a purely
Sony
Japanese-based
has
company.
accepted the American audience. That's why they're called Sony, because they moved over here. They are a Japanese company, absolutely, but they've adapted the Western world. Nintendo was like,
And they should.
we agree that there is a Western world because there are people there that could buy our products. However, we are a Japanese company.
But the Western world is not even just the Western world. It's also Europe. It's also the rest of the world
I-
besides Japan.
Yes, I know, but they are a Japanese company, so in their eyes, and I'm not saying I agree with it, in their eyes, they need to cater to the Japanese market first above everything else.
But they're not even winning that. Sony's beating them.
Well, Sony's beating them because Sony is not just games. Sony is massive.
Sorry, PlayStation's beating them.
There you go.
I apologize.
That's fair.
And
And
they
yeah.
are. They're beating
Yeah.
everyone everywhere. They are winning.
Yeah, well.
I have a big gripe to pick with you, Nintendo, and I need you to fix it because I love you. I'm a hurt fan. Disgruntled. You know?
I don't know if I'm hurt. I'm just ready to move on to something else.
I'm
I still
hurt.
have my 3DS. There's still fantastic games coming out for the 3DS.
I want to love Nintendo again, man. They made. I want to be proud if I ever have a child to sit them down and be like, play this game. This is Nintendo, whatever the hell it is when I have a child.
This is a relic of the past.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm a very nostalgic person, as everyone knows. So, like, if anyone would be stuck in the past with Nintendo, it should be me. Like, I plan on letting my kid watch old episodes of YTV instead of new TV when he's a child, because fuck new television.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
So, like, if anyone could
know.
be stuck in the past with this, it should be me. But I'm not. I can't. I want to make Nintendo great again.
We could do it.
We can.
That's actually the point of this podcast.
Nintendo?
If you're listening.
Which I know you are.
Which, obviously.
You're a big fan of me, specifically. How much I love you.
Yeah. That's just, yeah. Good.
So it
good
seems
segue.
like we didn't really disagree on all that much.
No, I don't necessarily disagree with, like, pretty much anything you've said. I understand that there are problems with Nintendo. There's problems with any company.
Absolutely.
We could have this conversation literally about anything, right? It's just that they have to move into the current market, right? And I don't know if they're going to. They have to. They need to make a more powerful machine.
Well,
I understand that they're catering to a certain market. I understand that, but the current market that they're going after, their niche product, isn't sustainable for a company of that size.
I guess
They're huge.
Exactly.
They need to generate enough revenue to continue to do what they want to do, or else they're going to cut back.
But my point is that.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. My point. My point is that they can still do their niche product and market while doing everything else. No one says they can't make the games they want to make on a
Well, I think that's
console.
what they're doing now. They're moving into other markets. They're moving
can
into the theaters and the cinemas and the attraction parks. The hell are they called? Parks.
1 second. This is important. Keep talking.
So maybe that's what they want to do. They want to get it like to what Sony has, where it's not just games, but they have all these other avenues and revenue streams, and that's why they're getting into toy manufacturing again.
Which is the Amiibos, and I think the Amiibos are great. for them. And I talk a lot of shit because I don't like their whole like artificial scarcity thing, but it works.
It's been to defend that. The artificial scarcity of Amiibo is done.
Is it?
It's been done for months now.
Okay, good.
Obviously, it's harder to find some of the more like the first Smash came out. But if you want anything that came out within the past like 3 waves, you could go anywhere and find it.
Okay, good. Because that was a serious problem for me. Like, you shouldn't do that. Like, you could have special versions.
We don't know if there really was artificial scarcity. It could be, and honestly,
come on,
it could be that Nintendo didn't really foresee the amount of people that wanted it. Because why? Their game sales, according to you, their game sales have been down.
You're right. But
there's been less interest in their IPs, so why all of a sudden people want this, even though they're not necessarily Nintendo fans? And I know, I have been to every single Amiibo launch. I have met people, and I'm like, oh, cool, why are you here for? It's, oh, I'm getting all the Amiibos. It's like, oh, yeah? It's like, yeah. Which one's your favorite? And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, can you name them? I met people that were there. They don't even know the characters. They were just there for it.
That's because they created initial artitional scarcity, right? So what happens?
But we don't even know if they did.
Hold on. Let's just propose
assuming
something
they
here.
did.
Assuming they did, which I guarantee you they did, because this is what happens, right? Certain ones got less than other ones across the board, not just like a certain store.
Well, I mean, to be fair, if you are Nintendo, what would you make more of, Mario or the Wii Fit Trainer?
You're right, but when you do that, you create a mentality of collectors.
But again, keep in mind, it's not like these are really fast to make.
If Nintendo mold,
I know, but mass producing them and getting them out and shipping them out, it does take a while.
You're right, it does.
For Nintendo to be like, oh, there's more demand for this character, they can't just be like, all right, we'll send more out.
You're right.
If they didn't have
it. But
anymore.
they also said, they also, I fucking hate you.
That's fine.
But they also said that they weren't going to put any more out. That's the scarcity I'm talking about.
They never said that, though.
Pause.
They never officially said that. Those all came from just bullshit news articles.
Are you sure? Because I feel like they stopped coming out.
The initial article that said they're what is it, cutting or like completely getting rid of the Villager Marth Wii Fit Trainer. Nintendo never said that.
But they also weren't putting any more out.
They were, but the problem was everyone's like, oh my god, I found one, and they bought all of them immediately.
So what they need to do is communicate things better.
You could say that about everyone, though.
You're right, but when you're selling a physical product, you need to be like, this is not a collectible. Because when that person buys 700 of them and then sells them online for $200, and then people will spend money on that for $200 for a fucking little figure that cost $15 when it came out, people are really pissed.
Yeah.
Really, really pissed off. And it's not like, and that's like the whole, that happened with the Wii and the PS3, which is also ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, someone paid $20,000.
We're getting to the point where, like, nothing should really be
unless you make it specifically as a limited
Unless it's
run,
like, yeah, we're only making 1,000 of these.
That's it. That's done.
It's like, cool. I know what to expect.
We're making 20 of these, whatever, one for every store.
But if it's something that's meant for, like, the general population,
yeah,
you have to be able to cover your bases.
And you offer it as an ability to actually play games with it, you can't do that.
Well, that's going to bring me to my next point. They're useless. And that's coming from me.
They are useless.
What can you do with Amiibo?
You can let them, they create artificial
And Nintendo's even said, hey, we're sorry.
Well, some of the cool ones have those like games parts in it.
The coolest thing about it was Nintendo put out a free app for the Wii U where it's like Nintendo's greatest bits, and you could scan in an Amiibo, and then you get a demo of a random game from the Nintendo 64 or the NES and Super NES era. You get a demo of a game.
What about the one that offers
of a 30-year-old game?
The Wolf Meal that gives you a dungeon.
Well, that's not out yet.
I know, but that's
but that's something. And then, then that's the problem. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's day one DLC."
No, it's not.
It is though. But it's an entire dungeon.
Because you can buy that game without an Amiibo.
I know you can.
So it's not
you can buy any game without the DLC, but then you're like, oh, but here's like a new quest.
But it's different.
So now it's a physical. I'm on the attack now.
No, it's
shut up and listen for a second. What is the difference of a Nintendo being like, oh, here's a Zelda a game that you've already played already? The only difference is now here's a new piece of content that is coming exclusively with the Amiibo. Granted, it is bundled with the game. However, let's assume that it's not. Let's assume that you do have to buy it separately. So what's the difference between that and day one DLC? For any other game that a lot of people generally disagree with.
The difference is that it's not necessarily like
DLC will never
it's not
sell
DLC.
out.
It's not DLC. Here's the issue with it, right? It is you're buying like a separate game almost. You're buying
got like role
a figure.
reversal here. Yeah.
right? And this figure is now a physical object. It gives you
which means there's only a certain amount of them.
But you can always keep making them.
But you could also always just make physical or digital DLC.
You could.
Much easier.
But the impetus behind putting something digitally means you could have easily. There's no other reason to get this any other way. I can get this digitally, and it's the same thing as if it's on your disc.
But this would be, and I would agree, if you could buy amiibo functionality through games, without having the amiibo. If there was a way for,
I disagree. I think that's the part that makes it okay.
If you could buy the exclusive dungeon that unlocks the wolf link, if you could buy that in the game,
I don't think you should be able
for
to
like a cheaper price.
I think that's what makes it. That's what makes it.
But then it's
not
just
good.
Physical DLC.
That's fine because now you have a figure and it can't be played without the figure, right?
No, you
can't
even get into it.
So now it gives you just a reason to buy a figure, which is fine.
Now I personally like this because now it's more like an impetus to actually go out and get these figures, other than and maybe take them out of the goddamn box because they're toys, but people don't like that because it's like, well, now I have to get the figures if I want to fully enjoy the game.
You are fully enjoying the game without it. It's not a necessary dungeon.
Nintendo's the first thing they said about Amiibo is that you will not need it to enjoy the game.
Is the game complete without the Amiibo? Can you play the full Twilight Princess game without the Amiibo?
Is a game complete without its DLC?
Yes, it is. Some games are, some games aren't.
So is this game.
Exactly.
Now,
and that's fine.
Now, from what I've heard,
you lock off parts of a game that are necessary for a story. That's when you have problems.
Right.
When you can't finish a game,
the dungeon that is unlocked through the Wolf Link Amiibo
means nothing to the
challenge
game.
mode,
exactly.
Right,
and that's fine. When you additional content,
Splatoon is a good example. Splatoon's Amiibo unlocked special challenge missions, single player, but every single mission unlocked a piece of gear or something new.
That's fine.
People lost their shit.
Does that gear make you better? Was it that much better than other gear?
Having that gear early in the game did give you an advantage because the way gear works in Splatoon is that you have gear slots, and the Amiibo pieces of gear came with 2 slots as opposed to what you probably had at the time, which was 1.
That's why it's an issue to me.
Like after a little bit of playing, you would eventually unlock the 3-slot gear, and it doesn't. So I understand why people were upset
in that scenario. It makes sense,
right? But
for me, as long as it doesn't improve you against other people online or doesn't take away from what you want to tell as a story, I don't see an issue.
You're talking about online gameplay for Nintendo, huh?
Yeah,
You're very forward thinking.
You're right.
But
very dreamy. I'm dreaming.
The Smash Bros. Line, huge success. Like, just stupid. And now we have Animal Crossing. I have a problem with this. There's so many Animal Crossing Amiibo that are coming out. There's no point to them. Nintendo even said, yeah, we just wanted Animal Crossing Amiibo, so now they're making it. So I think they're getting to the point where they're getting like incredibly greedy with their Amiibos. Because there's now soon to be 11 figures, or maybe like 16. Because Animal Crossing is a fairly popular series. But there's no point to having the Amiibo. There are 2 games, there's 1 game that uses them. There's over 16 of these things. It's now the second largest series outside of the Smash Bros. Amiibo. And the game that they're used for is just a watered down Mario Party. There are no mini games. Yeah, this is what the Amiibo functionality is for the Animal Crossing Amiibos. You have the gamepad. You need to roll the dice. You tap the Amiibo onto the reader. It rolls the dice. Then you put the Amiibo down. So they replaced pressing a button with scanning the Amiibo. And there are like 16 of these Animal Crossing Amiibos. Not to mention that there are also 400 Animal Crossing Amiibo cards that you could use with Happy Home Designer.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
How much does the game cost?
When it came out, it was a regular price game, so for us, $70. But it did come bundled with 2 Amiibo.
So that's 2 of the 16 Amiibos. $70, right?
Yeah.
How much does each Amiibo cost?
Now in Canada, like $15.
So to play
plus tax.
To play every game, every character,
right,
and roll the dice.
Yep.
You would need
a couple hundred
bucks.
Yeah. But it's okay because you're getting these figurines.
Are you fucked? That's what I'm saying. Like
I have bought every Amiibo to date except the Animal Crossing ones.
Because you're not fucked.
Because there's no reason to. I love the Chibi Robo Amiibo. In my opinion, that's the single best use of Amiibo in any Nintendo game ever. So it's a 3DS game. If you scan the Chibi Robo Amiibo while you're inside your home base, you unlock a capsule machine that unlocks hundreds of figurines. So you have a little collector's point there. If you use the Amiibo outside of the game, then you get a supercharged version of Chibi Robo that you could use to power through a level, and you get some new abilities. And then at the end of every single level, based on your points, you could save those points to the Chibi Robo amiibo, and that levels it up and gives it more functionality.
Okay, so it's actually like
you could do quite a few things with that, and I like that. But of course, it's only useful in that one game.
Yeah, it would be cool if they offered like a game that utilized like the reason why Lego Dimensions is cool, the reason why Disney Infinity is cool is they have a game that uses it.
That's what they need. That's what everyone's asking for. Give us an amiibo Skylanders.
Yeah.
Nope.
Of course not. Why would they do that?
We're gonna give you Mario Party.
Think about how sick Lego Dimensions is.
I've never played it.
Think about the game though. It takes Lego, all the Lego games, which are fun.
I enjoy Lego games.
I had a great time with them. Right?
They're great. They're great. Like
just
you could sit down and just like turn off your brain.
Exactly right. They're just fun. Every single figure has like I think at least like an hour to 2 hours.
Yeah, well, it's cool because you could play as Batman in The Wizard of Oz, and you could have like Scooby-Doo running around with you.
And so every world has like an hour, 2 hours at least. I think I'm not sure exactly.
How great would that be if they have like a Smash Bros type game, an adventure game, an RPG where you scan in the amiibos, those characters unlock. There's an overarching story, whatever it is, the bad guys of Nintendo group up, or maybe like a new threat or something. And then that's it, and then you go.
Yeah, it's like a world-ending threat for all of the Mario world or Nintendo world, and you have to play as all the different characters.
The Smash universe or something is like under siege.
Like the giant hand.
That'd be sweet. I'd play that.
I'd play the shit out of that game.
Yeah.
RPG leveling systems that save into your amiibo.
You could scan
in
any
amiibo. You can play with multiple people, so then people can come help you.
Yeah.
With their amiibos and their stats save on the amiibo, because that was the whole point of the amiibo.
And they'll never do anything like it.
Of course not. Because just like you can make a really great Pokemon game for the Wii U, they would never do something that makes sense.
I disagree with that.
Why?
That's whole Pokemon sentiment. Everyone wants like the Pokemon RPG. I think it'll be horrible.
Why?
Because it's just Pokemon is designed. It's been designed since the very beginning to be. Here's your continent. Here are your 8 steps that you have to take with the badges. Here's the EXP time frame. If you take that and expand that into an RPG, it'll be completely broken. Because by the time you get like Monster Rancher is different though, because then you're not. If you were to structure it after Monster Rancher, then it's not a Pokemon game. Well, everyone has an idea of what a Pokemon game is.
Don't make it a literal Pokemon game. Use Pokemon and create a new RPG out of it that can be played on the screen.
But then everyone's just going to have the same 6... Because in the metagame for Pokemon, everyone uses the same stuff anyway. If you take that, expand that to an RPG, you're just going to have the same stuff going anyway.
But would they use the same things?
Why wouldn't they?
Because now you're creating actual RPG content. Like let's say you create a game which has a set 6 teams.
Right.
Right. And you can train them, and every character can be just as good as the other character, but you just choose how you want to go about the game.
Yeah.
That would make it cool. Like, your team can be whatever you want it to be, and they can all be just as good as other teams. Like, there's obviously ways to best utilize them, but you can level them all the same. And the goal is still to catch them all, because that's your goal as a Pokemon character. But there's still an overarching narrative. This is no longer...
Yeah, I don't know. That sounds horrible.
I know, it sounds amazing.
I understand why people want it, but like...
Or you could even do an RPG kind of like going through Pokemon like Academy and shit, like set up a story with that, and you have to create a team as a student in the Pokemon Academy or whatever, go out and catch them and come back and gain level, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
It could be a different story with the same premise.
I see why people want it, but it just sounds dumb.
The whole premise of Pokemon is to catch all the Pokemon and become the best Pokemon trainer.
Now it is, yeah. They took a break from that for a couple of years.
Yeah.
They didn't want people to go crazy.
Mystery Dungeon and shit.
I like the Mystery Dungeon games.
Yeah, they're alright.
They're fun.
We're no longer talking about the initial debate anymore.
Right, you're right. Anyway.
Essentially, we pretty much don't disagree.
No, we agree, but from different points.
I'm just more scorned about it than you are. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I'm like, I would like to see Nintendo.
You'll buy it anyway.
Yeah, like I'm gonna get the games anyway.
I'm just a sucker for it.
If Nintendo like fiscally does well, then it's better for me as a customer.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's all it comes down to. Fiscally, they have been doing better than before
because of their amiibos.
Because of
I mean, good for them. But...
It's what they need, right? It's in a business. If you see a problem, if you don't fix it, then you're done. Nintendo, they put a Band-Aid over it, right? And they're getting the revenue that they need to continue on and continue their development.
Yeah,
and that's all it comes down to. Keep in mind, Nintendo doesn't really need to make money for another 50 years, and they could bleed themselves dry. I'm not saying that they should do that, but like they could have. They're in a very rare position for business where they can afford to lose money and continue to operate. And that is something that you can't say for a lot of companies because the amount of money that they have.
I only disagree on the point.
They can Scrooge McDuck into that.
I only disagree on the certain point of if they keep making hardware, that money will quickly run out.
Well, every
because development time for hardware is really expensive.
Yeah, but every single company takes a hit on hardware at
first, but they eventually make a profit.
Oh yeah, eventually, but we're talking years down the line.
They're
right?
nowhere near making a profit on their Wii U. That's a loss. They're taking a huge loss.
Well, Sony hasn't made a profit on the PS4 yet.
I don't think that's
Their
true.
profits just from software.
Yeah, but they've made their money back.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Whereas
Nintendo has made their money back overall. If you count
but if you remove Amiibos, they haven't made their money back.
Well, even just from raw software sales,
I don't think they've made their.
They haven't made a great profit, but they've recovered
minimal,
development time.
Yeah, which is not enough not for a publicly traded company.
Considering that it came out 4 years ago, yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure, good sir.
All right, so this wasn't. It's more
This really
of a.
wasn't. This discussion really wasn't an argument at all.
It's very civil.
So
We have to.
change.
We got.
Now we have to stab each other or something. Make something cool.
All right.
No, you're the one with a knife.
That's good.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me in your basement.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on your show.
It's our show.
Whatever you say.
You're my illustrious co-host.
I disagree, you bastard. Get out of my house. Chris, roll the credits.
Chris, what credits are we talking about? We have credits? There's only 2 people to thank. All right.
We're getting Fitzqually.
Fuck that guy. I love you.
Yeah.
I really hope you're doing okay, actually.
Yeah, I know.
This is the RumblePac Podcast. Boss
battle. Boss civil disagreement.
Similar, yeah, really just kind of a discussion. It's fine, though. Boss battles will go. It sounds cool.
Yeah. Generate the hits.
Exactly.
Go
I'm Stefano Fontana.
I'm not.
He's
Patrick
not.
Dennehy.
He's definitely not. He can't be as great as me. And this is the RumblePac Podcast Boss Battle segment.
Woo!
Version.
Yeah.
You can follow me at Steph_Fontana on Twitter. You can follow Patrick at Farvel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can Farvel.
You can Farvel me.
You can Farvel me. You can follow me on YouTube at Farvel. And I'm also been getting back into Twitch. I've been doing some streaming for a couple roguelike games. There's been a couple pretty interesting new ones that came out. So if you have any interest in that, you can follow me over at twitch.tv/Farvel.
Yeah. So thanks, guys, for listening. And hope you have a really good week.
Cool.
See you next week.
Later. Boss battle, bitches!
Woo!
Hey, this is Chris, and this has been another episode of the RumblePac Podcast. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe and share if you like what you hear. Be sure to catch new episodes on SoundCloud and YouTube every Monday. We'll catch you again next time on the RumblePac.